On today's episode of Sci-Fi Compared, we take a look at the universes of Halo, Star Wars, Warhammer 40k, and Star Trek in order to discover which one boasts the largest spaceship. Hey guys, this is EckhartsLadder. Hello and welcome to another episode of Science Fiction Compared. Today we will be looking at 4 sci-fi factions in order to figure out which one has built the largest spaceship. If you guys would like to discuss this video or any of the universes within, check out the EckhartsLadder Discord at discord.gg/EckhartsLadder. We're very quickly approaching 5,000 members and the server is awesome and a whole lot of fun. Alright, let's get started and we'll look first at Star Trek. Federation ships and really ships of any of the main Star Trek factions aren't typically very large when compared with other science fiction universes. So we're going to have to look at some of the weirder and perhaps more obscure aspects of Star Trek lore. The first thing that I think of when I think of a large ship in Star Trek is the Voyager. Voyager is a sort of living machine vessel. Besides having the Voyager 6 probe at its heart, Voyager's most notable feature was the gigantic energy cloud which surrounded it. This energy cloud varied greatly in size, from a couple astronomical units to almost 100. I say only a couple, but a single AU is over 100,000 kilometers. The discrepancy in size here is due to the fact that the energy cloud does get smaller as it approaches the solar system and Earth, but there are also some inconsistencies in canon. However, I don't really think that that's super important. I don't think you can say that Voyager is as big as its energy cloud. There is actually a ship within. Voyager itself is still very large. The ship is said to be, depending on the source, either 20 kilometers long or all the way up to 98. I don't think the lower numbers really make sense, so for the purposes of this video, we'll just say that Voyager is around 100 kilometers long. There are other very large ships within Star Trek. I think the most famous example is the Whale probe from Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, which is a 70-kilometer long object. There's also the very large Voth City ship, although I don't think we've ever got an official size for it. I think the largest vessel ever in Star Trek was the Fabrini world ship from the original series episode For the World is Hollow and I Have Touched the Sky. The world ship is sort of like an upscaled version of the Eye of Palpatine. Although it appears to be an asteroid, it's actually a vessel meant to bring the Fabrini to a new planet. The vessel, which is referred to as the Yonada, was initially identified by Spock as, and I quote, an asteroid 200 miles in diameter. And for the record, 200 miles equals about 320 kilometers. The Yonada was gargantuan, although it does admittedly push the lines of what we can consider to be a spaceship. That being said, it had a full weapon system, internal living space, and fully functional engines, so I think it qualifies. Next, let us change tone drastically and move to the Warhammer 40k universe. 40k often omits specific numbers when talking about ship sizes. Nonetheless, it is fairly simple to pin down some of the largest ships. For the Imperial Navy, standard ships seem to be roughly the size of their Galactic Empire equivalents. However, large battlecruisers and the like are much more common. There are also dreadnought-sized and larger vessels, including the McCraig's Honor, which is 26 kilometers long. The Imperium also has a few gargantuan ships. The best example in the largest ship of the Imperium of Man is the Phalanx, which is a mobile battle station the size of a small moon. Like much of the Imperium's great works, the technology to construct this vessel has been lost to time. However, there are some much larger ships than those offered by the Imperium of Man. The craft worlds of the Eldar, for example, I believe are the largest ships in the 40k universe and are the size of planets. The Necron world engine was also planet-sized, however, although it was mobile, I'm not sure if it would accurately be described as a ship. Tyranid hive ships must also be extremely large given their role as biofactories. However, we've never been given a frame of reference for their size. If I was to guess, I would say they're not quite as large as craft worlds, but still larger than a small moon. Let's move on to Halo. The UNSC and the Covenant are the small fries of the Halo universe, with the UNSC Infinity coming in at just under 6 kilometers and the CSO Super Carrier being the largest ship of either faction and coming in at around 30. Arguably, High Charity at 50 250 plus kilometers could be considered a ship, but in my mind, it's much more of a space station. The Forerunner, however, built on a much larger scale. Forerunner Fortress class ships were between 500 and 100 kilometers long. The Mantle approach, which was the personal battleship of the Didact, is the largest ship in the Halo universe at 350 kilometers high, but also being extraordinarily wide and long. The Forerunner, of course, also created countless megastructures, though I believe those are outside the source of today's video. It is worth noting that the largest of their structures, the Trevelyan Shield World, had an interior diameter of several astronomical units. I've previously done a video on the largest Forerunner structures, which you can click if you're interested. I think it's clear that if Halo canon ever focuses more on the precursors and their empire, we'll likely have some even larger ships, but for now, the largest is the Mantle's approach. Finally, we have Star Wars, and for the purposes of this video, we'll look at the new Star Wars canon and the old Star Wars Legends Expanded Universe. The most common large ship in the Star Wars universe is the Imperial Dreadnought. There were several variants of Super Star Destroyers, but all came in under 20 kilometers in length. Of course, The Last Jedi gave us the Mega Star Destroyer, which has a wingspan of 60 kilometers, considerably larger than anything that came before it. If we move to Star Wars Legends, we can find various other very large ships, including the Yuuzhan Vong World ship, which had a diameter of about 100 kilometers. To my knowledge, there's never really been anything larger than that. Obviously, there have been gargantuan space stations like the Death Stars 1 and 2 and Centerpoint Station, but those can hardly be called spaceships. There have also been living planets or very large droids, but again, I don't think they really meet the requirements for this video. With that being said, let's rank the universes now from smallest to largest. Coming in at number 4 is the Star Wars universe. Large dreadnought-sized vessels are very common in the Star Wars universe, but we don't really see anything that's hundreds of kilometers long and certainly not up to the size of planets like we see in the later universes. That puts Star Trek at number 3, and while Star Trek ships usually are quite small comparatively, usually the main factions have their ships being a few hundred meters to a few kilometers, there are a few outliers. Obviously V'ger is gigantic, as is the whale ship, and as is the mobile asteroid that I talked about earlier. Obviously, if we include V'ger's energy cloud, the universe jumps up to the top of the list, but I don't really think that can practically be considered part of the ship. At number 2, we have Halo. This universe occupies this position, mostly because the Mantle's approach is a few dozen kilometers longer than the Onada, the Fabrini world ship that looks like an asteroid. Finally, at number 1, we have the Warhammer 40k universe, and the ships here are just on a completely different scale, described as being planetoid-sized or moon-sized, and for the record, our moon is 3,500 kilometers in diameter. So, unsurprisingly, Warhammer has ships that are at least 10 times larger than the next highest faction. I don't think anyone will be surprised by that, but again, to summarize, we have Star Wars, Star Trek, Halo, then Warhammer. But that's just my research. Did I miss a ship? Did I mix up some numbers? Let me know all of that and more down in the comments section. Also, let me know if you like this video and don't be afraid to leave a like. And of course, post any suggestions you have for future content. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, this has been EckhartsLadder. Join the Discord, follow me on Twitter, and consider donating to Patreon if you want to be further involved in the community. Until next time, may the Force be with you.